Hello, I am Dollhouse-Chan, and we have another lovely dollhouse here for you. This one is put together for us by Dee and is titled I Love You So Much. It is this gorgeous little room here with all of the trimmings, a very busy little room, but just so adorable. Let's get into this and watch it getting put together. It comes together as a kit, of course, and we have all the parts and pieces, including the wallpaper, the floors, a dust cover as well, and a music box is in there too. So all the bits and pieces you need to make a adorable little room, plus some glue. We're actually going to give this glue a try just to see how good it is. Usually the glue that comes with the kits isn't very good, or it's too old, or it's been sitting for too long, but we're going to give it a try. And first of all, we're going to make this lovely little wardrobe. And we have some calico critters there helping to model the wardrobe. Thank you very much for that. And to start out with, we're cutting these paper pieces that have painted flowers on them. They're not actual paintings, it's just a print, but it looks like the flowers have been painted onto the wardrobe when we stick it to the panels. So that's a really nice touch. It makes it look very fancy and very pretty. We'll finish attaching those. Some glue stick there. The glue stick is great for when you want something to stick well, but you don't want to wait too long for it to dry. And Dee is now using the glue that came with the kit, and it seems to be working pretty well. It is just white glue after all, but like I said, it can sit around for too long, and sometimes it gets spoiled or it gets too hard. But this one seems to be working very well. That's nice. She's adding all four of the panels there to the two pieces of the dresser, and you notice that they're uneven. That's because panels often look nicer when they're not even. You could have that split right down the middle, and it does look okay, but I think it looks nicer when they're kind of off a little bit. We're adding the sides here and the top as well. The bottom's already attached. And we have the main part of the dresser done, but we need to add these little legs here as well, and that curvy front piece too, to make the legs for the dresser. And you can see that looks super fancy. Can't forget the knobs, just little gold beads for the knobs, and that makes it look 100% complete. Just fantastic. And next we have a little vanity. Isn't that fancy? And there are all the pieces there, all laid out for the vanity, and Dee is going to start with the mirror. She has the mirror material there. With this mirror material that you get in the kits, you do want to be a little bit careful with it, because if you use too much glue or you are too rough with it, it'll get all wrinkled and look not very nice. But if you're careful and you leave it nice and smooth, it really looks like a mirror and is a nice fantastic little touch to your dollhouse. So just keep that in mind if you ever are assembling one of these dollhouses yourself. So she's cutting out a few more pieces there, and she's starting to glue together different pieces of the vanity table, putting them together very carefully because there isn't a whole lot of area for some of these parts to stick to each other. So what you often want to do in those cases is just glue them together and then hold them for a few seconds, maybe many seconds, until the glue gets just a little bit tacky and will hold them in place themselves. So a little bit of patience goes a long way here. Now she's attaching drawer fronts to the front of the vanity, and you can see they have the paper painted flowers on them as well to make them match with the dresser, or the wardrobe rather. Very nice touch. That really ties the whole room together, having a continuous motif. And here she's attaching the bottom as well. Careful. And now she's adding on the second top. Oh no, I beg your pardon. She's adding on the legs. Yeah, these legs really only have a tiny little space to attach with, so you got to be very careful with them. Make sure your glue is almost dry before you let them go and flip that table over. But that seems to have gone well, and now she's attaching the second top. It gives it a nice stepped look, makes it look like a very fancy little vanity table, maybe even a Victorian vanity table. Finishing off the mirror and the knobs again, giving it a uniform feel with the rest of the room. Isn't that pretty? And since we have a vanity table, we also need a vanity stool. So we're making that right now. Dee's putting that together with some foam, going to make it very cushy, very fluffy, very inviting to sit on. And she's also switched to hot melt glue for the little stool. The parts here are very small. Those legs are even smaller than the ones on the vanity table, so we have to have a glue that's going to set up very quickly and fairly strong so that those little legs don't just fall off the stool. But once the hot melt glue dries, those are very solid and shouldn't go anywhere. So we just pop those on right there. And we need all 4 of them together. And that should do the trick. A little bit of lace around the edge. The lace not only looks good on a lot of things, but you can also use it to hide the little imperfections that you have because you're working on something so small. Here it's hiding the little folds, and it looks fantastic. Next up we have this canopy bed. Isn't that fancy? Almost a proper princess bed. So we'll start with the mattress. Dee Dee is cutting out some foam again, going to double up the layers of foam so that it looks like a very soft and cushy mattress. Using the hot melt glue here to get things moving along quickly. Hot melt glue also works well for these materials. You just have to make sure that your glue isn't too hot that it melts the foam. That can be a little bit disastrous, but if it's just the right temperature, you can assemble things very quickly like this, and it comes out as strong as it needs to be to hold it all together. You don't have to worry about it afterwards. Wrapping up the mattress now with the sheet. It would be if it was a real bed, just a piece of cloth here. That's the nice thing about miniature beds, is you don't really have to make them, you just have to make them. Yeah, once they're made, they're done though. They never get messed up again, so that's another nice thing. So finishing off the folding here, get it all folded up like a nice little sandwich, ready for lunch. Now we get the footboard and the headboard, and Dee Dee is cutting out some more of those painted flowers and is going to glue those to the footboard and the headboard to keep the theme running throughout the rest of the room. These flowers are really very pretty, and I think would make a real nice bedroom set if you could have something like that in real life. Back to the glue stick as well. That's always fantastic for gluing paper down. I like to use that a lot myself. Now we're assembling the frame for the canopy, and Dee Dee has switched to hot melt glue here, and that is an excellent choice for this because the hot melt glue will cure very quickly and allow you to have joints that hold together fairly strong even though there's such little surface area. Those kinds of things can be pretty tough. Another good choice of hot melt glue here, just gluing those little caps onto the end of these sticks. There isn't a whole lot of area for regular glues to work, so some hot melt glue goes a long way in these areas. She is attaching a piece of card to the bottom of the mattress here, and that's another great idea. It's not actually called for in the instructions for the kit, and that's a shame because it'll help you glue things to your mattress when you're assembling your bed, so it'll help give you a good solid place to attach things instead of the lumpy underside of the mattress. So Dee Dee has attached the headboard and the footboard, the 4 posts, and now she's attaching the frame for the canopy. And she's using hot melt glue because there's very little surface area to glue together again, and she needs something kind of strong, so that's a good combination. And the whole bed is together, adding a little bit of lace, hide those folds and seams, and also make it look really pretty. Doesn't that look nice? I really like this lace. Very fancy. Adding more to the other side here. And another thing you'll see Dee Dee doing is she is applying the stuff, the lace, the ribbon, whatever, and then trimming afterwards, and that's an excellent way to make sure everything fits perfectly. So you don't have to worry about cutting something and then you try to put it on your little dollhouse and it ends up being too short, which is really bad, or too long, which isn't so bad. If it's too long, you can always trim it again, but if it's too short, usually you can't stretch these things. So good idea to fit them and then cut them, and then you always know that you have it exactly the right size. She's cutting up the lace here for the canopy, cutting it and fitting it as well. You do kind of have to cut these parts before you place them, unfortunately, when it's really big like this, but you can always try placing them and then cutting them with some large scissors just down to the right size. It's up to you really what you like the best. As you can see, Dee Dee has done a little bit of both. She's cut some first to size and then trimmed them a little bit after they were on, So she has a really nice fit there and everything is just the right size. Now she's adding some finals onto the top of the post to give it a very nice finish look. A little bit of lace to hide all the glue. And there we go. Oh, don't forget the curtain ties. This is always the tricky bit, trying to tie little tiny knots in ribbon. But I think Dee Dee does an excellent job here. She gets a nice little bow going, and yeah, look at that. Isn't that fantastic? Very cute. Yeah, you can always tie a bow and trim it later as well. Important to remember that, because then you can have a bow with really long arms, trim those down, and it looks like a tiny little bow that was perfectly tied. And there we go, a cute little pink bed. Alright, let's start cutting some more material here. Cutting it down, and can you guess what this is for? This should look pretty familiar to you if you watch some of our other videos. Yep, these are going to be pillows. A little bit of sewing here. You can also glue these together if you don't want to sew, but sewing really gives you a nice result when you're done. It looks really like a pillow because you get that folded in seam along the edge, but a little bit of careful glue and you can get something very similar. It's just a little bit messy and you have to be very careful not to get glue everywhere because it makes the material look terrible. But whatever you prefer, it doesn't matter what method you choose, as long as when you're done you're happy with what you got. And some tiny ribbons there. Dee Dee is going to sew those on. I personally would have glued these on just because it would only take a little dab of glue behind them to attach them, but if you're more comfortable with sewing, by all means sew away. Now here's some material that they included in the kit to be a very fluffy comforter on top of the bed. It did shed quite a bit, like a dog. So we had to clean up a little bit afterwards, but it came out very nice. We're into the final assembly now, hiding the music box behind the main wardrobe off to the side there. Now we're adding in the bed and the vanity. Notice that Dee Dee has attached all her little bottles and beads to the vanities and the beds and so on beforehand, before placing them in. Makes it a lot easier to get those on there than when they're in the room and you got to work around a whole bunch of other things. So she's adding a few more details here, including a music book and a tiny violin. The tiny violin took a very long time and a lot of fiddling and was so small it didn't film very well. I know she wanted to show that, but it just didn't come out so well for video, but it was quite the build. I think she did a wonderful job with that though. And we're adding all kinds of little boxes around and some pictures. And she's actually putting the pictures in a sort of random way on the walls. I think that looks cute. And there we have the room. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at all the little details too. It's a very busy room. And here we have it at night. It does have lights, of course. And it is lit up wonderfully. And there is the little pet shop doll again, saying hi from behind the canopy, hiding back there like a princess. So I hope you enjoyed that, and if you want to see more tiny doll houses being built by us, please subscribe, hit that bell, and until then, thank you for watching.